I have a wonderful mother-in-law and brother-in-law, but I am still a daughter son-in-law. On the first day of my arrival, my mother-in-law asked me to promise in front of all her relatives that I would spend 1 million to buy a house for my brother-in-law within 2 years. Said he couldn't do it. So he swept my wife and me out. In order to marry my wife, I agreed to this shameless 2-year contract. In 2016, my wife and I got married. I came to the door at that time, and I had just graduated from college. My family is poor and an orphan, but my wife chose me, and her family did not agree to this marriage. My wife knelt down and begged my mother-in-law, who asked me to promise in front of all her relatives that she would take out 1 million to buy a house for my brother-in-law within 2 years. She said that if she couldn't do it within 2 years, she would sweep me and her daughter out of the house and sever the mother-daughter relationship with my wife from now on. My wife said that she believed that we would do it within 2 years, and then the family would not look down on us. In my mother-in-law's house, I lived a low life and didn't even dare to speak too loudly. When I came to the door, my wife and I only got a marriage certificate, and the wedding was not held. Not even if we simply invited relatives to dinner. The mother-in-law said that she would lose the face of her family, and the brother-in-law said that her sister was blind and married such a coward, and as for the father-in-law, he was a stuffy gourd and had no right to speak at home. I feel very aggrieved, but I feel that my wife is more aggrieved than me. I married her, and I couldn't even give her a simple wedding, and my wife was still sandwiched between my mother-in-law and brother-in-law, in a dilemma. At that time, many female classmates persuaded my wife not to be with me, saying that a child without a father or mother would ruin her life. My wife didn't care about this, saying that no one could stop us from being together, and she was far away from them, and she had to be with me to the death. I have no reason to treat my wife badly, and I must earn a breath for her and for myself in this 2-year appointment. To do this, I opened a company. Every day, I only immerse myself in work and try not to talk when I am at home. The trickiness of the mother-in-law and brother-in-law is indescribable. When I do housework, my mother-in-law always likes to point fingers, say this and that, and my brother-in-law is even more excessive, always like to direct me to do housework, and also dismantle the new shoes I bought. Sister, these shoes are so good-looking and fit very well, you bought them for me. My face darkened at the time, and he actually saw my name on the courier. So he said this on purpose. It's just a pair of shoes, I don't bother to care, but I hate my brother-in-law too much. In the evening, my wife suddenly asked, "Husband, have you embezzled the family's money these days? Always less money." I said no, let her keep it hidden. It may be that my brother-in-law moved, because my brother-in-law likes to play cards. I recently heard some people outside say that my brother-in-law has lost a lot of money. Of course, these are just the order of the day. There's something more ruthless than that. One day when I came home from work, my wife worked overtime and the door was locked. I heard the sound of my brother-in-law playing Honor of Kings in the room, so I knocked on the door twice. No one came to open it. I rang the doorbell twice, but no one came to open it. The brother-in-law also heard it obviously and turned off the sound of Honor of Kings. I called my mother-in-law on WeChat, and didn't answer. And she still didn't answer when I called again. I had to call my wife, and it took about 5 minutes for my brother-in-law to run over and open the door. He pulled a bittergourd face, as if someone owed him money. As soon as I entered the door, my mother-in-law walked out of the bedroom. "Lao Yao, why don't you open the door for your brother-in-law?" "Mom, I'm busy playing games, he won't open it himself." "The door is locked, let me open it myself." My brother-in-law and mother-in-law played a duet, and I waited outside the door for 10 minutes, and they just didn't want to see me at all. Since my brother-in-law beat me into the house, he has never called me brother-in-law, either him, or whoever calls me that. If it weren't for my wife's sake, I would have torn my face with my mother-in-law and brother-in-law. In the evening, my wife asked me about the situation, and I told her the truth, and she was also embarrassed, so I let her endure it. And we moved out when we had money in 2 years. The next day my wife asked my mother-in-law for the keys, and she said that there were only 3 keys, and she could only give one to my wife. In front of my wife, I said that the money in the house was lost, so I replaced the lock, and warned my wife that if I lost the money again, I would hold her responsible. The mother-in-law spoke very loudly, and I could hear these conversations clearly in the bedroom. I didn't mention me on the surface, and I wasn't stupid. The implication was that I was a thief, and I told my whole family to guard against me. I think this should be my brother-in-law who taught his mother-in-law to change the lock. so that it would be more convenient for him to steal our money. My wife gave me the key and told me not to worry about them, saying that my mother had always been patriarchal. Within 2 days, the matter fermented. When I got on the elevator, I met 2 gossip leprechauns. Girlfriend. Do you know? Huang Li's mother told my mother-in-law that her husband stole the family's money, and many old aunts have been gossiping about this matter these days, saying that the son-in-law who comes to the door is unreliable, especially if there is no father or mother. Yes, you said that Huang Li is beautiful. Why did you find such a waste husband? The eyes are not ordinary blind. My face turned green, and I wished I could find a crack in the ground to get in, and I was told that I was too cowardly. I wasn't afraid of embarrassment, so I asked, who are you talking about? When the 2 of them saw me, they immediately shut up. I didn't tell my wife about this. I don't want to mess things up with her anymore. People are under the roof, and they have to bow their heads, blaming themselves for not having the ability. I took notes on all these things, and in 2 years I must earn 1 million for my mother-in-law, and then take my wife out of this home, this time. I deliberately set up a bureau, put the employee's salary in a conspicuous place, and secretly installed surveillance in the bedroom to wait for him to be arrested. Unexpectedly, by such a coincidence, my brother-in-law ran to our bedroom to get a hanger, and he actually took the opportunity to steal money and was caught by me. My life with my wife is already difficult, and my brother-in-law often steals our money, which is too unusual. I thought to myself, now I can prove my innocence. Mom's money, you took it too. I didn't get angry and kindly told him, but I made a loud voice and deliberately wanted my mother-in-law to hear it. This is my home. What are you? Your name is written on this money. In my home, I want you to be an outsider. About 200 pounds, with a tiger's back and a bear's waist, and pushed me out and hit the computer desk. I felt a pain in my thighs, and when I looked down, my pants were torn, and my thighs were hit with a hole, and I was bleeding. Hearing such a big movement, the family came over. Stealing my money, is it reasonable? This is the worker's salary, other people's hard-earned money. This beast actually complained to his mother-in-law, but said that I beat him. The mother-in-law obviously saw it, but she still defended her son. Why are young people so angry? You are a few years older than your brother-in-law. Why don't you let him go a little? Daughter, you have to take good care of your husband. The mother-in-law can say such a thing, which is also damaging and extremely insulting. Mom, okay, just say a few words. The brother-in-law slapped the money on the table and left angrily. My wife couldn't say anything. So she left it at that. Only my wife understands everything, and I endured it this time for my wife. The next day, my wife went to work first, and my mother-in-law and father-in-law also went out. When I was washing, the toothbrush was gone, and when I came out, I actually saw my brother-in-law brushing my leather shoes with my toothbrush. I know that my brother-in-law is openly wanting to take revenge on me and deliberately find fault to provoke me. If I can bear this, I will really be a grandson. Without saying a word, I snatched his leather shoes, stepped on them twice, and threw them into the trash can. The toothbrush was also folded in half by me, not to mention wearing my new shoes. He also picked up my toothbrush and brushed my shoes, really treating me like a beast. Don't annoy me. I don't want to stay in this home for a long time. If it's too much, I'll do my best for you. My brother-in-law is obviously at fault. He clenched his fists and red eyes and wanted to beat me. If he dared, I would really dare to fight for him. After this incident, my brother-in-law was obviously more ruled than before. Although he didn't want to see me, he still played tricks, but he didn't do anything too out of the ordinary. Half a year later, my wife and I found out that she was pregnant, and I was so happy that I was finally going to be a father. We have been hiding this matter from our mother-in-law. My mother-in-law also said, I don't want my son to be able to support him, and he has to raise a little ancestor. My mother-in-law actually said such a thing to her own daughter. She is still not alone, I immediately retorted, suppressing my emotions. Mom, when a child is pregnant, it is a life. Don't worry, we will raise it. We will not let you worry. Whatever you raise, you have to rely on my family to support it. Take care of yourself first. My brother-in-law fanned the flames on the side, and a sentence directly pierced my heart like a knife. In the past 6 months since I came to the door, I have taken out all the expenses at home, and my brother-in-law, a beast, actually said such disgusting things. I was about to get up and prepare to give my brother-in-law 2 big mouths. My wife cried instantly and ran to the bedroom, and I quickly chased after her. within a few days, my wife quietly aborted the child without telling me. And told my mother-in-law and brother-in-law about it loudly. You are satisfied now? The mother-in-law obviously didn't take it seriously, and the brother-in-law actually smiled secretly. Only the father-in-law was distressed, saying that his grandson was gone, and he had created something in his previous life. My wife cried for a long time that night, and I comforted her until midnight, until I heard that my wife was not moving, and I got up and went downstairs. I don't know if my wife is asleep. I slowly lit a cigarette, and the night was particularly deserted. I kept kicking a stone with my foot. The starry sky is full of stars, and there are always people who can only live in the night. My wife and I have no children, and my heart feels like a stone has been planted. I will slowly return the account of my brother-in-law and mother-in-law, especially my brother-in-law. No matter what tricks they do, I will take the move and kill them step by step. The company I opened made almost 2 million during this time, far more than $1 million. But I really didn't expect that their riotous operations could be so many. My wife and I have been giving 800,000 yuan to my mother-in-law intermittently, and I plan to make up for 200,000 yuan. So I will move out of this home with my wife. Daughter, your brother's investment failed. Can you find a way to lend 500,000 yuan to your mother at night? The phone call was from my mother-in-law to my wife, and she would never tell me anything. So she asked my wife to act as a tool person. My brother-in-law borrowed the money to gamble and told my wife that it was an investment. This is really funny. Wife, can we have a showdown with my mother tomorrow? Give her another 200,000 yuan, and we will move out. I really can't stand it now. I took the lead in speaking. This time, I have to make a break with my mother-in-law and brother-in-law. This is just a temporary thought in my heart. Such a mother-in-law and brother-in-law will definitely be more difficult in the future. I can only take one step at a time. My wife nodded and said, listen to me. Early the next morning, I was still washing my face and brushing my teeth in the toilet, and my wife quarreled with my mother-in-law. Huang Li, you asked me to prepare money last night, but you didn't reply to me all night. What's going on? Mom, we can't come up with so much money now, and Luo Jun can't pay the workers' wages now. My wife deliberately panicked and rounded up the scene for me next. What do you mean by taking? You are now starting to talk to your parents like this. Is that trash taught you to say this? The mother-in-law deliberately spoke loudly, and the brother-in-law and father-in-law were also outside. Sister, just lend me some for mom. And it's not me who borrowed it from you. Why are you so outsider? My brother-in-law turned around the corner and said sarcastic things, deliberately making things difficult for my wife. I quickly finished washing up and came to my wife's side. Dad, Mom, Xiaoli and I plan to move out this time, and we will supply you with the remaining 200,000 yuan. I deliberately tempted my mother-in-law, and it would be better if she didn't agree. What are you? My mother asked my sister what it has to do with borrowing money from you. My brother-in-law clenched his fist and was about to come up and hit me, but my wife grabbed me. How did you talk to your brother-in-law? And I don't bother to pay attention to him. I took the agreement and gave it to my mother-in-law, who cried and said that my wife and I are white-eyed wolves, and in the past 2 years, eating her and living in her, even raising a dog will have feelings. My brother-in-law said that if he wanted to break away from the family relationship, he had to take out another million. Otherwise, he would find a member of society to clean me up. I can't take care of that much anymore, and I still have to pretend to make some things clear, and I have to solve them in person today. My brother-in-law's face turned red, and he had already picked up a shovel in the yard, looking at me as if he was going to eat me. Mom, think about it yourself. When you think about it, I will transfer the 200,000 yuan. This is the first time I've spoken so hard. As soon as I finished speaking, my brother-in-law rushed over with a shovel and slapped me on the head with a shovel. And I was bleeding at that time. My wife came up and pulled my brother-in-law away, and asked me to go to the hospital, and I said it was okay. The mother-in-law rushed over, snatched her brother-in-law's shovel, and slapped him in the face. Dad, my own father, can you let me live a few more years? Mom, you also bully me with them. The brother-in-law squeezed out tears, and simply sat on the ground and kicked his legs, playing the trick of an old scoundrel. The old man was not easy to intervene, just like an outsider watching a play, standing there motionless. This agreement was signed, and the mother-in-law asked the father-in-law to sign it. she scolded her father-in-law too, saying that he was of no use except eating. We moved out of our mother-in-law's house and rented a house later. It was similar to what I expected. The mother-in-law and brother-in-law played tricks, and things got bigger. The mother-in-law gossiped outside, saying that the company was run by her son, and her daughter was deceived by me, a waste, and her 6 relatives did not recognize it. What's even more infuriating is that I am a bereaved dog. These rumors also spread to my company and became a compulsory course for employees to go to work every day. In the afternoon, I went to my mother-in-law alone to ask her for an explanation. I knocked on the door for a long time, and it was still my father-in-law who came to open it. The brother-in-law sat on the sofa with a sad face, looking like he was arguing with his mother-in-law. I didn't bother to care about their emotions, so I just spoke. Mom, I've done everything benevolent and righteous. Don't do things too much. If you talk nonsense outside, we'll see you in court. What did you say? What do you want to see in court? I understand my mother-in-law's temper, and she will definitely complain to my wife and then borrow money. Which is why I see her alone. I didn't bother to ask her again. So I slammed the door and left, and my brother-in-law scolded me from behind. Unexpectedly, my mother-in-law really called my wife at night to complain, saying that I had wronged her and scared her with the law. Daughter, you divorce this trash immediately, or take out 1 million. My wife's phone is on speakerphone, and my mother-in-law is very strong. Mom, what are you going to do? Where can I get 1 million now? Otherwise, you will divorce that waste, and you will divide half of his property, or I will die in front of you. You can choose one of the two. My mother-in-law used death to scare my wife, and I took the phone in my wife's hand. Mom, if you really need money for something, I can find a way. I can't take out a penny for my brother-in-law's affairs now. I hung up the phone directly and asked my wife not to be soft-hearted. The more this happened, the less my mother-in-law and brother-in-law regarded us as human beings. They all thought it was easy for me to make money, and they didn't know that I had lived more than a dog in the past 2 years. The plans I implemented were not ruthless, but my mother-in-law and brother-in-law did too much. After a while, my father-in-law called my wife. Daughter, you just ask your son-in-law to think of a way. Your mother is going to commit suicide. You come back quickly. My father-in-law rarely calls my wife, and listening to his tone, my mother-in-law should have started acting at home. My wife said that she would go back and I would follow her, but she said no, if I went, there would be more inchable. I think so. So I asked my wife to go over and tell her to act according to the opportunity and call me if there was anything. Until late, my wife didn't call, and she came back. The wife frowned. It seemed that she was in trouble. Wife, what's wrong? Did mom make things difficult for you? Husband, let's get a divorce. You don't care about anything. We will never contact each other again. My wife said she wanted to divorce me, and after asking her for a long time, she said that her mother-in-law was putting pressure on her, saying that if she didn't do what she said, she would die in front of my wife, and my wife didn't want to hurt me. So I wanted to come out and divorce me. My wife asked me to resell the company. So I told my mother-in-law that she was bankrupt. She left the house, and the law didn't work. Wife, let's transfer the company to your brother. Can we leave this place? Don't contact them anymore. Sign an agreement. At this step, I waited for my wife to agree, and my mother-in-law and brother-in-law would definitely be trapped. My wife cried. I knew she was embarrassed. Even if my mother-in-law and brother-in-law were no longer human, they were related to her. Long pain is not as good as short pain. I still tried to convince my wife that if my brother-in-law behaves well, this is not necessarily a bad thing. Husband, this is what you have worked hard for 2 years. Are you willing to do it? When my wife asked this, the corners of my eyes moistened. In the past 2 years, my wife and I have basically spent all our energy on this company, and we have not simply visited the park with my wife. I am indeed a little reluctant, and I don't know how to survive without my wife in the past 2 years. I can't bear it, but for you, I will definitely be able to make a comeback. My wife held me tightly in her arms and patted me on the shoulder. Husband, this agreement has been signed. We don't want to make a comeback. Can we live a plain life? I nodded and pretended to agree to my wife's request. Men must be ambitious, and I don't think I deserve a plain life now. The next day, we went to my mother-in-law's house to sign the agreement. My brother-in-law couldn't hide the joy on his face, and the mother-in-law pretended to be very sad. I asked them to leave 2 more cards, promising to give my mother-in-law and father-in-law 20,000 yuan a year in alimony. I actually don't want to fight a penny, but for the sake of my wife. I don't want my wife to be pointed at by public opinion again. I don't want to stay here for a minute. It's too ironic. In the afternoon, my wife and I went to the business hall to cancel the card, and I changed her mobile phone, which directly made her give up, saying that we would come back again in 3 years. In the evening, we packed our bags and went to another city, and this half month was also the most comfortable day for my wife and me. Just after half a month, I received a WeChat message from my most trusted employee in the company. Fei is my best friend and my right-hand man in starting a business, and now he is my liaison. Before leaving, I specially asked Fei to help me take care of my brother-in-law, and then watched him fall into the abyss step by step. Fei, boss, your brother-in-law mortgaged the company, and now he has a loan of 1 million. In fact, I expected my brother-in-law to do such a thing, but I didn't expect him to be so fast. Immediately after he mortgaged the company, I asked my elite employees to withdraw. Once the company goes bankrupt, he will bear a lot of legal responsibilities and disputes, and he will naturally not understand these for his idle brother-in-law. Gamblers are terrible, especially him, who has reached the point of hopelessness. If the mortgage is lost, he will definitely think about selling the company's property, and then the loan will not be repaid, and the workers' wages will not be repaid. In the end, the mother-in-law's family will go bankrupt, and they will completely fall into the abyss, and will not be at peace for the rest of their lives. Even if the brother-in-law is awesome, the mother-in-law will play tricks again. Can they fight this group of social people? I didn't tell my wife about this. I didn't think it was necessary. Telling her would only make her troubled, and then my mother-in-law begged me to go back and run the company again. I worked like a dog to raise my brother-in-law, not only to be angry with my mother-in-law, but also to be discussed by a group of social people. What do I want? I don't need to put my whole life into it for such a waste. I sent a message back to Fei. Fei, help me pay attention to the company's dynamics at any time, and report to me only if there is a big situation. Thank you. When Fei came back and said, understood, boss, I deleted the chat history. During this time, my wife's mood has improved a lot, and I accompany her every day to relax. One night, I hugged my wife. Wife, do we want to make a villain? It's time for us to have a child, and the wife nodded. Later, I temporarily found a job on a weekend and found a martial arts gym to learn some self-defense techniques. A few days later, I received another WeChat message from Fei. Boss, your brother-in-law has sold everything the company can sell. The workers' wages can't be paid. The bank staff and workers run to your mother-in-law's house every day to make trouble. Your brother-in-law was beaten miserably, and I heard others say that his legs are discounted. It's really relieved, and finally someone cleans him up for me. The boss will tell you the good news again. Your brother-in-law owes a lot of gambling debts and borrows usury, and the society chopped off 3 of his fingers. When Fei told me the news, I almost laughed out loud, and I felt a little sick. Evil is rewarded with evil, and good is rewarded with good. And you must not be too soft on people like your brother-in-law and mother-in-law. Within a few days, Fei called me urgently. Boss, your brother-in-law and mother-in-law came to the media, and said they wanted to expose you. Come back quickly. Let him be exposed. I won't go back even if he dies. Boss, your brother-in-law has taken a lot of evidence to frame you, and now many media are interviewing you. I hung up the phone and asked Fei to send a video on WeChat. Inside is the reporter's interview video. The mother-in-law and brother-in-law are pretending to be pitiful and spreading rumors like crazy. After I finished reading it, my face turned black, and I wanted to kill my brother-in-law, the beast, right away. My brother-in-law forged a lot of transfer records, saying that the company's money was transferred to my wife, and he didn't know where to get photos of me sleeping with some women. What's even more infuriating is that there are nude photos of my wife taking a bath. I can't bear to ride a horse anymore, and if I allow him to obviously, it will be unforgivable. I decided to go back and fight desperately with my brother-in-law. A beast. I said hello directly to the boss and left, went back and told my wife about it, and we bought a plane ticket and rushed back. On the way, I called Fei and asked him to blast the reporter out for me no matter what he wanted. Fei readily agreed, saying that he would definitely do it. My wife was also furious. She said that this time she listened to me completely, and if she softened her heart, she would not be human. The plane arrived quickly, and we returned to the company in more than 2 hours. the reporter was blocked outside by our Faye and the workers. They had not yet left. And the brother-in-law and mother-in-law were still there. When reporters saw me, they had to interview me, and it was obvious that I was the protagonist, and they wanted more fierce news and hot spots. I bypassed it directly, and the main thing I need now is to have a life and death confrontation with my mother-in-law and brother-in-law. If they can't say why, I will only let them see me in court. Before I could say anything, my mother-in-law gave my wife a slap in the face. The mother-in-law wanted to continue. I directly pinched her hand, squeezed it hard, and the mother-in-law screamed in pain. I heard the sound of joints, and it seemed that I didn't practice martial arts in vain during the time I went out. My brother-in-law was about to come up to help, and I directly threw him on the ground with my other hand, and he staggered up. If you play arrogantly, you will be useless. I'm not polite to my brother-in-law now. I'm no longer the waste I used to be. If he dares to make mistakes again, I will definitely let him suffer enough. You are a lost dog. You are just a wild dog. What qualifications do you have to be my brother-in-law? Although my brother-in-law broke his finger, he was still very rampant and rushed towards me. I was directly punched by him twice before I fought back. I don't know if this is legitimate defense. When he was about to continue to attack me with his fists, I slapped him directly and twisted it. I heard this crisp sound, and I knew his hand was broken. My brother-in-law's face was red from the pain, and he wanted to continue to attack me, and I directly grabbed his arm and twisted it again. This time the brother-in-law, the beast, didn't hold back, and he screamed directly with an "ah" in pain. I really want to cripple him directly, so that he doesn't harm this society again. But this kind of person obviously got my hands dirty. And he needs more people to clean up slowly. You made the forged bank transfer records and photo pictures. I asked my brother-in-law. I didn't. Everything was taught to me by my mother. What kind of culture does my mother-in-law have? She will understand this. This brother-in-law is not only inferior to a beast, but also a white-eyed wolf, and his mother-in-law treated him like this, and actually said such a thing. Your sister's nude photos were also taught to you by your mother. I lowered my voice. The anger in my heart could erupt at any time, and I had clenched my fists. As long as he doesn't admit it, I'm going to beat him up. It's me, it's all the brother-in-law was obviously cowardly, and he began to speak incoherently. I turned my gaze to my mother-in-law, and her face darkened. I did all this, and everything came to me for anything, and it has nothing to do with your brother-in-law. It's all like this. The mother-in-law still has to protect the scumbag of her brother-in-law. I really feel sorry for my brother-in-law and my mother-in-law. All the media, my family affairs, you'd better not report indiscriminately. If anyone dares to report blindly, Luo Jun, will definitely make you pay 10 times the price. I don't bother to explain to the media, because no matter how you explain some things to him, he will say that you are fake. Mom, I didn't blame everything in the past. I had to be forgiving and forgiving. I was thinking of calling you Mom. I didn't want to do things too badly, and I hope you can wake up. The mother-in-law didn't have any expression on her face, and in the past 2 years, she has indeed been tossed enough by her brother-in-law. Many employees of the company also came out to speak up for me. They believed in my character. And some employees who gossiped about me in the company also took the initiative to apologize to me. The brother-in-law was obviously unwilling, and asked the media to let them report. And the media was not stupid and ignored him at all. The brother-in-law was so angry that a large number of workers and bank debt collectors followed behind him. The mother-in-law cried and pulled my wife by the side and said, "Daughter, when I met such a prodigal son, I don't know what sins I did in my previous life, and now all my savings are gone, and the house has been sold. Can you think of a way for me?" My wife looked at me, and she didn't know how to respond to her mother-in-law. "Son-in-law, can you help your mother? What happened in the past was my mother's fault, and I will compensate you now." As my mother-in-law said, she knelt on the ground all of a sudden, and I quickly pulled it up. This is the first time my mother-in-law called me son-in-law. And it was also the first time I saw her so lowly, and she was still in front of me. I should have relieved my anger in my heart, but I didn't have it at all. I saw her tears, kneeling for an unworthy son. Is it possible for all parents in the world to do such a stupid thing? It's just that she is too stupid and there is no room for recovery in what she has done. Mom, I can't help it now. Do you know how much effort I have put into this company? I have nothing now. On the surface, I'm a boss, I don't even give my wife a decent wedding. I think I'm a failure to be a husband. Mom, let's do it. I don't want to be soft-hearted, and I don't want to lie in this muddy water anymore. For my mother-in-law and brother-in-law, obey God's will. They are not on the verge of pain, and they will never experience the pain of my wife and I in the past 2 years, without paying attention to my mother-in-law's entanglement. We found a hotel to stay in at night and decided to leave tomorrow. In the middle of the night, I was woken up by a phone call from my wife. Daughter, your brother committed suicide. Come to the hospital quickly. The call was from my mother-in-law, and there was the sound of an ambulance on her side. My wife and I quickly got up and got dressed, took a taxi straight to the hospital. When I arrived at the hospital, my brother-in-law was about to die. The doctor asked the other family members not to enter. Only the mother-in-law went in. The brother-in-law was finally rescued. He wanted to die, but didn't die. He wanted to commit suicide again, and his mother-in-law cried and forced him to die. My wife and I decisively left the city the next day. I reopened a new company, and it is now thriving. A few days later, my wife and I saw a piece of news on the internet. A couple was made difficult by their mother-in-law and brother-in-law, who was disabled and stupid for life, and the brother-in-law made a living by picking up garbage outside, and was beaten by debt collectors. The mother-in-law and brother-in-law of this news are mosaic, but my wife and I can still see at a glance. This is the mother-in-law and brother-in-law. I don't feel sympathy, and they will eventually pay for their actions, which makes them more uncomfortable than the law and death. My wife still cried, and I wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. I think only my wife is the best gift from God. Later, my wife's little baby and I were born, a little princess, and I was so happy. My wife has accompanied me through ups and downs, and then I will be her sun and make her a rainbow for the rest of her life. Wife, I want to hold you a make-up wedding. When do you think it's good? Just tomorrow. Husband, it just so happens that the little princess is also 1 year old. We can take a wedding photo together. Xiao Gongju. Do you agree? My wife gently pinched the little princess's pink face, not to mention how beautiful her smile was. I pinched my wife's face with my hand to protect the little princess from letting my wife pinch it. Grand Duke, don't pinch my little lover painfully. I picked up my phone and turned on the camera. 123 eggplant. The family of 3 smiled very sweetly. This is the warmth of home.